Morning, everybody. Hold on, let me get this thing in the cradle here. Get my camera angle set. Apologies for that. It's just the new camera. The way that the current camera mount I have sits and holds the camera, it's right where the volume buttons are on the camera, which messes it up while it's recording. So I have to kind of like hit, and it also covers up the record button on the screen. So I have to sort of like turn it on to start recording and then move it. So, all right. Haven't done a slip joint in a while. And honestly, I've been focusing on, my more one hand opening. Let's throw this one in the mix too, although it's not a slip joint, but it is a traditional knife. I've got my Benchmades and all my cool, more one hand opening, locking blade, spider coes, all that kind of stuff. But I'm still a sucker for a good slip joint. And I love this brand. If you have not checked out this brand, you're missing out, man. I'm telling you. I've got a few of these already from Rough Rider Reserve and then one of their side brands, which is an excellent knife. I've got one of the Amazon ones that turned out to be really good. I've got Case, I've got Boker, the Solingen German, like $240 one. I've got $180 Great Eastern Cutlery. These knives belong in this group, and I'll tell you why. So before we get into what this new knife is, Rough Rider, we'll talk a little bit about the brand. So there's Rough Rider, and they make knives anywhere from $15 to $30. They're very inexpensive. And you look at them and you're like, oh, I wouldn't buy a $20 knife. How good can it be? A bunch of them are actually surprisingly good. And then they came out with the Rough Rider Reserve. This is their premium line that uses, and I'm doing this in 4K, by the way, because I want you to be able to see more detail on these. Uses beautiful burlap micarta, really nicely done, no proud edges. I mean, really, really nicely put together, really strong springs. Hear that? Really, really nice. Excellent blade grinds, wicked sharp out of the box. Just really, really nice actions. Really well put together. Again, there's no seams here. I mean, I can feel those machined grooves, but as far as the transition from the metal to the micarta, the pins, there's no proud pins. There's no rough edges. I mean, this is a really solid knife. Really nice snappy action. And this was like 60-something dollars. I've got another Rough Rider Reserve. This one, I don't know if this one's called the Tear Jerk or something, but you've got your larger blade, and then you've got a secondary blade on this one that's more of your Wharncliffe. So really nice action. Again, you look inside, that's where Case, we'll talk about Case in a minute and how these guys relate. Case tends to, they'll do some polishing on the outside, but then you look at all the corners where they cut inside and the areas around here on the blade near the pivot that are real rough from where they stamped out the steel and didn't really polish it as well as they did the rest of the blade. You look inside here, every single piece in there is a nice mirror sheen, nice polished. They spent their time on this. They put it together nice. When you look at, where the pins are, most of the time you can barely see them, and they're never proud. There's never any seams. They're just really well done. And another Rough Rider I got, now this is part of an ARPA line, or it had a kind of a weird name, but you've got really nice textured micarta. You've got whatever that metal is. It's some type of steel with an adjustable pivot and a VG10 blade. I mean, these are made in China, but these are really well-made knives. Again, I love this one because you got your slip joint. It's a really nice little perfect pocket utility knife. If you're in an area where you can't have a locking knife or something, or the blade has to be under 3 inches, there you go. Really nice, usable, nice stabby point for piercing a plastic package or something. Nicely machined thumbnail nick to pull the blade out, but you can adjust the pivot. That's always a problem with a lot of the slip joints, is that when they're pressed together, they could be pressed too tight and the blade doesn't move freely, or the blade's really nice and loose and it wobbles. You can't really adjust it. So here you can. Just really, really well put together. And the thing I like about these is that I've not had any of the Rough Riders that got blade wrap. And that is where the knife isn't tuned properly, so that hard spring, when it snaps shut, it hits on a little hump right there where the back spring is beefed up because there's a pin under there that holds it in place so that it pivots there. And so that hump, a lot of times the blade over travels from the speed that it snaps down and goes clunk, and you'll, after dropping the blade a few times, you'll have a dent in the blade. And I actually had that here on this, which is why I had to put leather down in there so that this would go snap and hit that. So anyway, this is Rough Rider. Rough Rider and Rough Rider Reserves. Excellent knives. And then we'll go and compare them to this other one. So what did I get? Now that you know a little bit about the brand. This is the RRR024. Paid $67.95 at Old Town Cutlery. Give them a look. They do mail order, all the stuff on the internet. They just happen to be near me, so they got a really nice little showroom. But this one is called the Granddaddy. And here's what I like about them. They come in a really nice tin, just like the Great Eastern Cutlery. Pop it open. Got a microfiber. Little microfiber there. Always built by hand and hand backed, or built by hand and backed for life. Wow, that's a big boy. It's bigger than I thought it was going to be. So, what is this? This is almost 5 inches closed. This is going to be a large EDC knife, let me tell you. Almost would have preferred it to be smaller. Now, that's not a knock against the knife. On the pictures online, before I went and got it, made it look a little smaller, but that's even bigger than my cattle knife. Holy crap. So what do we got? We got a big honkin', I think that's more of a sheep's foot. It's got a really nice micarta. Now I will say this micarta, there's different kinds of micarta. This is going to be more in line with this micarta. You feel the epoxy, it's very smooth. There's not, there's grip, there's some traction, but not like grip. It's not the exposed linen micarta like this, where you're actually touching the fabric. This outer layer is more of that resin that makes up the micarta. But it's actually really beautiful. This is going to be, this is burley birch or something like that. It feels more smooth like that. Again, I don't feel any, you run your fingers over this, you don't feel the pins. You don't feel that little shield. That is inlaid and polished, all of these perfectly. All these edges, nothing. It's perfectly ground and polished. That is really, really nice. There's no proud pins, no proud edges, no blade wobble. Yeah, a tiny bit of flex, although not much. That's a big, beefy blade. No blade wobble whatsoever. But that is a big knife. Sharpness test. Let's grab a slice of paper here. Very sharp out of the box. We'll do a push test. Oh, goddamn right it does. That is a really, really nice edge out of the box. And that's the thing, man. Rough Rider Reserves, these are hand built. They take their time. This is a knife with tax was like $72. It's a bit big. That is a big working knife. This is going to be in my collection just because I like it. I wouldn't mind if it was about that long. Let's do a size comparison. So looking at this one, which is the Rough Rider 2285. Yeah, it's a bit bigger. If we compare it to my little Barlow, yeah, it's bigger. The largest one of these slip joints I've had so far is the Boker Cattleman, which is a really, really very tasty knife. Yeah, it's bigger than that. That is a big honking knife. It feels good in the hand. Let's put some of these away. And I'm going to compare the quality here to the Boker. Let's look at the construction. Actually, similar construction. Now, this is Bowler M690 steel, so that's a step up, obviously, from D2. But D2, if done right, is a good blade steel for a pocket knife. I would say that as far as fit and finish goes, looking at these two behemoths side by side, you're looking at a goddamn comparable knife. $250, $70 with tax. Big difference in price. You can say, well, this has got birch, this has got micarta, this has got M690, this has got D2. Yeah, okay. But here's the dirty little secret. Steel prices, when you're buying giant lots of steel for making knives or whatever it is you're doing, the difference in buying a giant batch of M690 or M390 versus D2 is not that much. When you're going through the foundry and forging steel, knife grade quality steel into bars and as a raw material into a usable product that you would sell to a knife maker, it doesn't cost 3-4 times as much for M390. It might be 25-30% more. It's not that much more money. It's the process of forging the steel. You have to run a foundry. It's expensive. The type of steel that you're making doesn't change the cost equation on the manufacturing side all that much. They just know that it's a better steel, so they'll charge you a lot more money, even though if this piece of steel that big, if it cost them $3 for that piece of steel, it might have cost them $3.75 or $4 for that piece. But they'll turn around and sell it for $180 more. Now, there's other stuff that goes into it that's part of that, but anytime you look at knives and you see the price jump for the same knife, you want the D2 version, it's this, you spend $200 more for the M390. It didn't cost them $200 more. It might have cost them $10 more. Anyway. Yeah, so the blade, of course I would have this thing upside down like a dick. All right, we're going to do this upside down. So if we look at that one has a 3.5-inch blade. See, it seems longer. It's just because it's thin. With an 8-inch overall length. And if we compare it to this one, we have the same length blade, basically. But the handle is definitely bigger, and it's taller. So it's definitely going to take up more room in your pocket. We're looking at just over 8.5. We're looking at 8 and whatever. It's early. I haven't finished my coffee yet, so I'm trying to think of what comes after 8.5, but it's not 9. It's not 8 3/4, 8 9/16. I don't know, something like that. It's definitely a bit bigger, but I got big hands. If I was going to be doing a bunch of cutting or something like that, that's actually, it fits nice. You can choke up on it a little bit, and it's not going to be as good for fine work, but that is a big honking blade. Let's compare it to this one. This one is made by Brother, the 1512, and this one is 440C. Nice little lockback, very light, G10 with plastic liners, but it's actually pretty well put together. We'll put that one up there for size comparison. Yeah. So what do I think of it? I think it's probably too big for most people for EDC. That's the dig, and it's not a dig, it's just I bought a really big frickin' knife. But when it comes to the quality, let's get some of these other guys off the table. Oh yeah, lock back. I've got a Great Eastern Cutlery. I've got also the Remington bullet knife, which is made by Great Eastern Cutlery, at least the year that I bought it. That's a trapper style, beautiful knife. But, I look at this. This is a kind of an interesting one because it's the handle is more of a canoe shape, sort of. It doesn't bow, but it's more like a canoe, but it's got the Stockman blade pattern, which is really nice to have different blades for different purposes. This is a great little pocket knife. But these run you with tax around $190. And it's using carbon steel, so you got to keep it oiled and make sure you keep it clean and dry and stuff. So D2 is much more forgiving. But when I feel the construction of this, when I look at this, I would say that this is going to be more on par with this. It's definitely better than, this is probably the best example of a case that I've ever had. But the blade got a little bit of wobble, but not too bad, but it had blade wrap. But this one actually, some of them I had pins that were proud and they kept working out and you had to push them back in. I had a cracked whatchamacallit, so the little scales were cracked from where they drove the pin in. I've had it where the edges didn't line up. It's like they polished it and put it on separate instead of putting it together and then polishing it as a whole, which, would make all these edges matte. This is the best example of a case that I've had. In fact, it's the only case I have left because I've gotten rid of all the other ones. And that's a pretty decent little pocket knife. I like that one a lot. But when you feel this, you can feel the quality. It's better put together. The blade doesn't wobble as much. The action is stronger than that. It's got really nice walk and talk, but it's got zero blade wrap. Even with that heavy blade and that hard spring going whack, it's not over traveling and hitting that damn spring housing and denting the blade. And I've seen that. I've seen that on some of my Bokers. My Boker Trapper, I spent $140 on that thing, and I was getting blade wrap. This one doesn't get it. So for that, I'm glad. But this is easily in this class of knife. It's better than this. It's as good and better than this. But I would put it up, again, as far as quality. I'm not saying that the material here isn't better. This is real horn. This is M690. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but is when you look at the construction, when you look at the grinds, when you feel the fit and finish, when you feel the spring tension, when you look at how it works, you look at all the attention to detail down inside there where they really put their time here. There's no sharp edges. There's nothing that isn't properly beveled, properly polished, seamless transitions. This is a beautiful knife. I don't care if it's made in China. So's your iPad. So's your iPhone. Nobody criticizes Apple for not having, good quality and being well made, even if people like me don't particularly like certain aspects of the software. As far as, the construction, if you pay attention, if it's a good knife maker that takes pride in what they do, you get lots of good stuff out of China. This is a really, really nice knife. It's a bit big, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm gonna see if they make a medium size. This is gonna be like the XL. But if they just took that exact pattern and just shrunk it by a third to put it more, more in this size category. Put it more, I wouldn't mind it being a little bigger than this, but not that much, maybe 10% bigger. That'd be perfect, man. That is just beautiful. I love that burlap. I hope the 4K video here is really picking up the texture in that. But it's a very nice. Everything about it is nice. Everything about this just feels quality. Very, very nice knife. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I haven't had a slip joint in a while. I go through different phases. I'm like, I'm going to carry the Delica 4 for a while, then I'm carrying the Benchmade Bug Out, and every once in a while I start jonesing for some of these, and that's the beauty of the world we live in. You can buy lots of really nice, high-quality knives. Some are going to be more expensive. We'll put those off to the side. I don't know how many people want to buy, and if you do buy one of these, a lot of times it's collectors buying the Great Eastern Cutlery, and they don't want to carry them or use them because, I might get it scratched or this and that, ruin the value. I don't buy, these aren't investments. They're toys, they're tools. They're things I like to carry and I find useful, and they're good to have on you. The one thing I'll say about the Bokers is that if you don't have a good thumbnail, it's hard to grab that blade because it's a really strong spring and not a lot of it sticks out, and it's not like that. That's a really nice, generous, plus you got more blade. You can just pinch it and grab it. But that's a really nice slot there for your thumbnail to catch on. Whereas here, a lot of times the first time I miss and then I got to change my grip, it can be a little tricky. Never had that problem with one of these. So there you have it. This is the Rock, I always go say Rock River, damn it. Every video, I just see RR and I think Rock River Arms, our AR-15 maker. Rough Rider Reserve. This is the 0024. And it's nice. I give it a huge thumbs up. Just be warned. And that's why I think this video might help. You see it in a catalog. You see it online. You're like, that looks like a beautiful slip joint. And you don't realize how big this goddamn knife is. And so if you're in a country or an area where you can only carry a 3-inch blade or something, yeah, this is not going to be it. And I know, and as an EDC, I don't know how practical it really is to have a knife that big. While slip joints tend to not be that intimidating, you pull this out in an office to cut up an apple or something, people are going to look at you funny like, Jesus Christ, why are you carrying that? Because it is so large. The shape of it's not that intimidating. But, if you're in an office or something and you had to open a package and you pulled out a little guy like this or a little Swiss Army knife, most people wouldn't think much of it. You go chunk and you got like a mini machete in your hand, and that might raise an eyebrow. That would be my critique of this. Nothing against the knife. It's just going to limit where you can carry it and what you might want to do with it. But as far as the knife itself goes and the quality, construction, materials, primo, top notch, man. This is a great, great knife. Very cool. Anyway, let's get my camera out and stop recording. We'll talk to you guys later. Yeah, this is the fun part of my camera setup. Might have to come up with something new for the new phone here.